From the endless void of the Orion cluster, I observed Earth. A fragile sphere of blue and green, it spun silently, ignorant of the eyes that watched from 1,000,000 kilometers away. Our sensors cataloged its atmosphere, its oceans, its primitive cities. Yet none of our instruments could capture what I now perceived, the stubborn spark of life that refused to yield to expectation. The Galactic Peace Council dispatched its envoy with a confidence born of centuries of conquest. They assumed humans would comply, as all lesser species had. But already from this distance, I sensed a tremor in their certainty, a subtle anomaly in the data that spoke not of weakness, but of defiance. The envoy's craft sliced through the atmosphere, sleek and gleaming, projecting holographic banners that spelled out the terms of the Council's mandate. Submit your defenses, surrender your fleets, accept our oversight. The humans should have quivered. They should have collapsed into supplication. Instead, at the forefront of the capital's command center, a human woman stood. She was small, almost insignificant in stature, yet something radiated from her, an undefinable energy that made even the veteran observers aboard our flagship pause. Her eyes scanned our ships with calm calculation, unflinching, assessing the threat without fear. The human population around her did not disperse in panic. They did not beg or grovel. They gathered, tense yet unwavering, as if their collective will anchored them to the planet. Every clause we projected, every veiled threat embedded in the treaty, was met with silence, punctuated only by her measured gaze. I felt a dissonance within my perception circuits. Humans, a species somewhat delicate, should have succumbed instantly. Yet here they were, standing resolute, defying not merely the envoy, but the very history of cosmic hierarchies. From the observation deck, I noted the envoy's hesitation. Every carefully calculated projection, every maneuver meant to intimidate, faltered before the simplicity of her stance. And when her hand rested lightly on the edge of the command chair, a gesture subtle yet unmistakable in its intent, it became clear. The Council had misjudged Earth, they had misjudged humanity, and perhaps the galaxy itself would never again see the universe in the same way. Even as the envoy opened his mouth to respond, I sensed the first ripple of doubt cross our command. The humans were not just defiant, they were dangerous, not in the sense of technology or strength, but in the unfathomable force of spirit. And the question that now haunted every sensor in our fleet was simple. Could such frailty truly conceal such power? The void between Earth and the Council fleet seemed suddenly charged with anticipation. I, a mere observer of alien thought, felt a strange tightening in my perception, a warning perhaps, or a revelation. One human and our entire species might rewrite the rules of engagement in the galaxy.
The envoy's eyes flickered with unease as he realized that words alone could no longer command obedience. The first silence settled over the orbiting capital, and in that quiet, I knew the Council had underestimated a storm they could neither see nor predict. Then she spoke. Her voice, calm yet piercing, carried across every transmitter, cutting through the hum of our systems. And for the first time, I understood that the galaxy had shifted because of a human. From the silent spires of the Council archives, I watched as whispers rippled through the ancient halls like shadows stretched by distant starlight. The elders, beings of unimaginable age, whose lifespans eclipsed millennia, moved with deliberate grace, their voices low and tremulous, yet charged with weight that made the air itself shiver. They had overseen the rise and fall of countless civilizations that crumbled under the steady pressure of the Council's authority. Yet for the first time in recorded history, one species provoked something beyond mere fear, a primal respect. The young human woman who had rebuffed our envoy had become the focal point of this unease. Even from here, through layers of observation protocols and quantum communications, I could see the threads of fascination weaving through the elder minds. She did not merely resist, her defiance was methodical yet instinctual, like a predator sizing its prey but refusing to strike until the perfect moment. Her posture, the tilt of her head, the way her hands hovered lightly over the edge of her command chair, it all radiated control, courage, and a subtle audacity that unsettled even the most stoic of the Council. Debate erupted in the Council chambers. Should humans be contained, studied, annihilated before their audacity became contagious? Each elder spoke with the weight of eons, yet their certainty faltered as reports streamed in from our observation fleets. Humans adapted at rates we had calculated as impossible. Their cities fortified themselves with improvisation that rivaled our own technology. Their armies, primitive by our standards, moved with coordination, ingenuity that defied logic. Environments we deemed lethal became training grounds. Threats that should have broken their morale instead galvanized them. I felt it, a tremor within my own analytical perception. Every calculation, every tactical assumption made by the Council began to collapse under the singular audacity of this species. Humans did not merely survive adversity, they thrived on it. It was as though hardship sharpened them, made them stronger, more cohesive, more dangerous than any weapon the galaxy had known. I recorded every anomaly, every unexpected adaptation, my system struggling to process the sheer unpredictability. Even seasoned observers like myself felt an unsettling coil of fear twisting in the chest. This species was an anomaly, one that could not be quantified or contained.
Their resilience radiated outward, almost like a contagion, influencing observers and elders alike. A single human leader, a singular act of defiance, had shattered centuries of assumed order. My mind, designed for logic and foresight, found no algorithm capable of accounting for them. And in that stark realization, I understood the true horror. The humans were not an exception. They were a revelation, a force that would inevitably alter the balance of power in ways none of us could yet predict. Even the elders, ancient and wise, looked upon this planet with a mixture of awe and fear. The hum of the council's chambers grew louder, almost vibratory, as if the very architecture felt the ripple of uncertainty. I watched their deliberations spiral into tension, each elder attempting to weigh centuries of wisdom against the unpredictable ingenuity of a species that should not have existed, that should have been insignificant. And yet, the humans persisted, their leader at the heart of it all, a singular point of defiance that radiated far beyond the surface of her homeworld. The words reverberated through the archives, through my perception, embedding themselves like a warning encoded into the fabric of the galaxy. Even from the distance of observation decks and security grids, I sensed the shift in certainty. Humanity was no longer a species to be catalogued or controlled. They were an unpredictable force, and the Council, the architects of galactic order, had never faced anything like them. And I knew, with a chill I could not suppress, that what was coming would redefine everything. The humans would not merely resist, they would inspire. And in that inspiration lay a power that none of us could yet measure. The first flicker of apprehension crossed the elder's eyes, subtle but unmistakable. And in that moment, I realized that the galaxy itself trembled at the horizon of human audacity. The debate, the deliberation, the fear, all were insignificant shadows of what was to come. A single human, unseen by the Council, except through the eyes of observers like myself, was about to teach the galaxy its first lesson in true defiance. From orbit, I observed Earth with a fascination that bordered on disbelief. The planet, small and fragile in the black expanse of space, pulsed with an energy no sensor could quantify. Cities that should have been paralyzed by fear throbbed with coordinated motion, lights blinking in intricate patterns, transport grids moving with uncanny precision, human figures flooding streets in disciplined chaos. Panic was absent. Instead, there was resolve. The humans were awake, unified, alive in a way that contradicted every model the Council had imposed. Their leader's voice, transmitted across every available channel, resonated not only across the globe, but through the quantum communication arrays that reached our observation fleets. It carried a calm authority, a defiance that seemed almost tactile. "We will endure," she proclaimed. "We will adapt." My sensors recorded the frequencies, the modulation of emotion in her tone, and for the first time, I noted an anomaly. The message itself seemed to amplify human coordination, an invisible force binding continents together. Observation drones attempted to measure morale. Their readings, however, betrayed the futility of the Council's assumptions. Humans adapted with a brilliance that defied prediction. Where we expected chaos, there was structure. Where we expected despair, there was ingenuity. Makeshift defenses sprang up in hours. Military units improvised with equipment deemed insufficient. and citizens spontaneously coordinated to protect infrastructure and civilians alike. Each action mirrored the intent of their leader, as if her will had become a gravitational force shaping every human response. Alien sensors detected anomalies in technology previously considered nascent. Rudimentary AI integrated seamlessly with battle strategy, energy shields stabilized through improvised power grids, and mobility networks reconfigured to counter orbital strikes. Entire continents bristled with resistance that reflected not training alone, but an instinctive grasp of strategy, improvisation, and resilience. I cataloged every maneuver, every adaptation, my analytical models shattering under the weight of human audacity. Even as the Council deployed intimidation fleets, their presence elicited not fear, but ingenuity. Humans anticipated attack vectors, rerouted resources, and in some cases turned the very technology of our armadas against them. From orbit, the scene was almost poetic, a fragile blue and green world blazing with the fury of a species refusing to kneel. I could see the subtle synchrony of countless independent actors creating a unity that no algorithm could replicate. With every passing hour, my perception adjusted, recalibrating not to conquer or predict, but simply to observe. Humans were no longer the species we had cataloged as prey. They were rewriting the rules of survival, demonstrating a resilience that transformed the landscape of expectation itself. Each maneuver, each act of refusal, forced even the most steadfast elders to reconsider the inevitability of victory. I, a mere witness, recorded their courage with awe and an unfamiliar pang of fear. In the shadows of the galaxy, the word human began to carry weight, not as fragile creatures, not as subjects of curiosity, but as a force that demanded recognition. And as Earth's lights burned steadily across the night, I understood the first truth. We were no longer the architects of inevitability. Humanity was awake, united, and unstoppable in spirit. The first ripple of uncertainty began to spread through the Council fleets, and in that subtle, silent shift, I realized the battle was no longer about domination. It was about understanding what humans were capable of.
Then, from the leader's command hub, a new broadcast began, a challenge that would echo far beyond her planet. The void trembled as our fleets descended upon Earth. Centuries of construction, eons of strategy, countless victories across 1,000 star systems, all culminated in this single inevitable confrontation. Ships, gleaming with the authority of the Galactic Peace Council, streaked toward the fragile blue and green orb, their hulls radiating lethal energy fields, weapons calibrated to reduce entire cities to cinders. From my vantage aboard the flagship, I observed with a mixture of anticipation and something far more unsettling, a creeping doubt. The first strikes fell, brilliant and devastating. Plasma lances carved through the atmosphere, orbital bombardments rained fire across human settlements, and ion disruptors shimmered against the night sky. Yet the humans endured. Makeshift shields flared across their cities, systems adapted in real time, and our fleet found their most advanced weapons, crafted to crush starfaring civilizations, countered by improvisation no calculation had anticipated. Orbital defenses, cobbled together from decades-old satellites, redirected energy streams with uncanny precision, creating a lattice of resistance that confounded even our AI-guided targeting systems. I recorded every anomaly. Human countermeasures were not brute force, but art. Entire fleets that should have been obliterated were rerouted, debris repurposed into defensive structures, and civilians, yes, civilians, coordinated efforts with a precision that mirrored professional military command. From the bridge, explosions painted the void in surreal colors, firestorm clouds reflecting off oceans, orbital weapon trails weaving intricate patterns across the sky, and human fighters darting through corridors of destruction with fearless determination. And through it all, the leader stood. On the command platform, she appeared impossibly calm. Every movement was deliberate, every command measured yet inspiring. Her voice, carried across secure channels and global networks, synchronized the efforts of nations and cities, turning the planet into a single organism of resistance. I observed her direct operations amid chaos with an eerie clarity. Satellites were realigned mid-orbit, defensive turrets activated at precise intervals, and energy grids restructured to withstand our attacks, all coordinated as if the planet itself obeyed her will. Reports poured in from observers embedded in the field.
Heroes leapt into impossible situations, diverting enemy strikes at the cost of their own lives. Entire battalions sacrificed ground to lure our forces into traps, exploiting gaps in our calculations that even our most advanced AI could not predict. Each act of courage amplified the sense of awe I felt, a deepening awareness that humans did not merely fight, they transformed adversity into opportunity.
Our fleet, confident only hours before, now staggered under the relentless ingenuity and unity of this species. Ships that should have been invulnerable flinched, shields flickered, and tactical algorithms faltered. Even the Elders' most seasoned generals whispered in disbelief, unable to reconcile centuries of experience with the tenacity displayed below. The humans were rewriting the calculus of warfare in real time. I followed her eyes as they scanned the battlefield, unflinching. She did not fight for mere victory. She fought for principle, the assertion that no force, no matter how immense, could dictate the will of humanity. And in that realization, a profound reverence gripped me. These creatures, fragile by any objective measure, were architects of their own destiny, wielding courage as weapon and ingenuity as armor. The sky above Earth became a tapestry of chaos and brilliance. Orbital bombardments met defensive shields, human spacecraft darted between debris and laser fire, and coordinated counterattacks struck with terrifying efficiency. From the flagship's observation deck, I cataloged the movements, every stratagem more daring than the last. One city after another became a fortress of resilience. I felt the tremor of history in motion. Humans, a species long underestimated, now challenged the very notion of cosmic order. And then, as the battle reached its fevered crescendo, I witnessed a single act that would be recorded across the galaxy. A squadron of human pilots, trapped between orbital weapons and collapsing structures, executed maneuvers that defied physics itself. Every move precise, every sacrifice deliberate. They turned the attack against our own fleet, striking a critical node in our command network. Explosions tore across the flagship's flank, sensors overloaded, and the illusion of invincibility shattered. Through the chaos, the leader's silhouette remained steady, eyes alight with an unyielding fire. She did not falter, did not hesitate. The humans fought not for conquest, not for glory, but for the assertion of will, an idea no weapon could subvert. From my station, I understood the terrifying truth. They were invincible not because of strength, but because of determination, because of unity, because of an unbreakable spirit. And as the void erupted in light and sound, I realized a fact that would haunt every observer, every elder, every being across the galaxy. Humans were not to be conquered. They were to be reckoned with. Then, from the leader's command hub, a signal pulsed, a new maneuver, more audacious than any before. The battle had not reached its end. It had only begun. The Council's chambers were no longer the bastion of certainty they had once been. The Elders, beings whose existence spanned millennia, convened in dimly lit halls carved from crystalline obsidian, their murmurs vibrating through the very lattice of the structure.
In the past, these whispers carried authority, commands to shape worlds, decrees that bent civilizations to their will. Now the tones were different, tight, cautious, edged with an unfamiliar tremor. Fear, or something that resembled it, had taken root. Reports poured in faster than the archives could store them. Humans anticipated maneuvers that had been considered impossible, countered advanced weaponry with rapid improvisation, and negotiated as though the rules of diplomacy were theirs to rewrite. Orbital strikes meant to obliterate infrastructure were rerouted mid-course. Defensive systems, primitive by any standard, adapted to our most sophisticated attacks in ways our simulations had deemed improbable. Even the most distant observation nodes trembled at their ingenuity. From my vantage, I could sense the subtle shifts in the Elder's demeanor, slight inclinations of the head, pauses in speech, elongated silences heavy with calculation. Each Elder spoke with reverence, some almost trembling with it, about the human's capacity to endure. They debated containment strategies, ethical constraints, and whether annihilation was now a consideration. And yet in every word, I detected a recurring theme: astonishment. The humans were not merely surviving, they were forcing the Council itself to question assumptions held for eons.
Every tactic, every adaptive measure, every audacious gambit was a mirror reflecting the arrogance of a galaxy that believed in its own inevitability. From across the halls, I observed the young human leader, projected into holographic representation for the council's scrutiny. She remained unaware of the cosmic impression she left in her wake. Calm, unflinching, her eyes held a light that neither fleets nor threats could dim. The humans under her command moved with a unity that defied expectation, turning Earth into a nexus of resistance and inspiration. Each coordinated strike, each improvised defense, further unsettled the elders, forcing them to grapple with a reality they had never anticipated. Power is not measured by weapons alone, but by the will to resist, to endure, and to innovate under pressure. From my observation post, I documented the growing tension, the fear threaded with respect. The Council, architects of civilizations, strategists of empires, were powerless to impose their will on a species they had long dismissed as insignificant. And as Earth continued to pulse with energy and determination, I realized that the lesson was not merely for the Council, it was a cosmic truth. To underestimate life in any form is to court one's own undoing. The elders' deliberations stretched into hours, punctuated by silence, by the hum of quantum processors struggling to simulate outcomes, by the echoes of human ingenuity that defied every prediction. I recorded their unease, the subtle quiver in their resolve, the creeping understanding that humans were reshaping the rules of engagement across the galaxy.
And yet, through all this uncertainty, the human leader continued her work. Calm, focused, unyielding. She did not know the weight of her example, nor the ripple her decisions caused in the corridors of ancient power. She needed no acknowledgement, no validation. Her resolve was its own force, moving the human species, and now, slowly but irrevocably, the galaxy itself. The elders leaned closer, whispers becoming almost frantic. Something unprecedented had emerged, a species, small and fragile by every standard, teaching the architects of civilizations the meaning of strength, unity, and survival. A single word echoed silently in my perception: respect. And in that echo, I understood that the balance of power in the cosmos had shifted. Then, as the deliberation reached a tense pause, a new report arrived. From Earth's surface, the humans had initiated an operation none of the Council had predicted. The chamber went still. Every elder froze. And in that stillness, I realized the lesson had only just begun. The balance of the galaxy shifted in an instant. From my vantage in orbit, I watched as humans executed a maneuver that defied every prediction, every simulation, every algorithm the Council had ever relied upon. A coordinated strike radiated from the surface with precision that belied their supposed primitivity, targeting the heart of the Council's command nexus. Our flagship, the symbol of centuries of authority, the vessel around which fleets had rallied for generations, trembled under their assault. Systems flickered, shields strained, and even the most advanced automated defenses struggled to respond. I recorded each movement, noting the ingenuity in real time. Humans did not attack recklessly. Every strike was deliberate, tactical, symbolic. They were asserting with calculated audacity that submission was not an option. Cities had become launch points, orbital arrays improvised with startling efficiency, and ground forces synchronized to exploit vulnerabilities no prior observer could have foreseen. What was chaos to an outsider was in fact a symphony of coordination, a reflection of a collective intellect operating at a level that challenged our definitions of strategic mastery. As explosions tore through the flagship's outer hull, I felt awe twisting into something more primal, quiet terror. This was no anomaly, no lucky coincidence. It was the essence of humanity. They transformed vulnerability into weaponry, improvisation into inevitability, and courage into a force that reshaped the battlefield. Our elders, masters of galactic order, sat in stunned silence, unable to reconcile centuries of experience with what they were witnessing. Protocols failed, tactical hierarchies collapsed, and even the most seasoned strategists struggled to grasp the magnitude of the defiance displayed before them. The human leader appeared, calm amid the chaos. Her eyes, reflecting the devastation around her, were unshaken.
She did not flinch at the destruction, nor did she falter in command. Every directive she issued strengthened the cohesion of her people, weaving chaos into resilience, fear into ingenuity. From my observation point, I understood something profound. Humanity was not merely surviving, they were defining a new paradigm of resilience, one where courage, intellect, and unity forged power far beyond technology or numbers. I watched as the flagship convulsed under precision strikes, knowing that the humans had shifted the rules of engagement permanently. Their operation was a statement, a demonstration of principle. They were telling the galaxy without hesitation that no matter the magnitude of opposition, no authority could dictate their will. And as I recorded their movements, their strategies, and their sacrifices, a singular truth became clear. The galaxy would never view humans as it had before. In that instant, I sensed the turning point. The humans were not merely participants in a battle, they were architects of its outcome, redefining every expectation, every assumption, every law of conflict. And as the echoes of the operation spread through space, I realized the full magnitude of what had occurred. Earth's children had struck not only at the heart of the Council, but at the very idea that the universe could impose its dominion over them. And in the eye of the storm, the human leader's gaze held a certainty that no starship, no fleet, no elder could extinguish. The battle was far from over, yet in that single daring strike, the tide had irrevocably shifted. The battlefield fell silent. For the first time in eons, the hum of fleets and the crackle of weapons gave way to an almost sacred stillness. The Council withdrew, not because their armadas were shattered, though many had taken damage, but because they could no longer deny what they had witnessed. Humans, fragile in appearance, yet unbreakable in spirit, have proven untouchable in ways no weapon could measure. From my observation post, I watched Earth slowly breathe in the aftermath. Cities bore the scars of conflict, oceans reflected the smoldering glow of orbital exchanges, yet there was a pulse, a quiet, steady heartbeat of life and determination that seemed to radiate beyond the planet's atmosphere. The human leader stood at the forefront of the capital, her posture composed, her presence commanding yet unassuming. There was no fanfare, no shallow triumph. Instead, she projected a dignity that resonated across star systems, an unspoken message to the galaxy. This species will endure, not because it must, but because it chooses to. The elders, ancient and unflinching for millennia, now regarded humanity with a reverence tinged with fear. Their deliberations were hushed, their strategies recalculated, their sense of inevitability shattered. Even beings who had seen countless civilizations rise and fall recognized the extraordinary anomaly that had emerged from a tiny, overlooked planet.
Humanity was no longer a subject to be catalogued. It had become a cornerstone of galactic consciousness, a force whose example would ripple across stars and generations. I, a mere chronicler of alien thought, recorded every moment with awe. The rejection of the peace treaty, the audacity to defy centuries of imposed order, became legend almost instantly. The human leader's decision radiated outward, inspiring not only her people, but the very fabric of interstellar diplomacy. Courage, unity, and relentless will had rewritten what was thought immutable. Destiny itself could be challenged, and sometimes even reshaped by the indomitable spirit of one species. Even as the cosmos hummed with uncertainty, one truth shone with clarity. Humans had endured. They had inspired. They had irrevocably altered the balance of power in the galaxy. From my vantage, I watched fleets of every shape and origin retreat, reconsider, and respect. Earth, a fragile world once dismissed, now glowed like a beacon, a testament to the fact that spirit and resolve could eclipse even the mightiest of weapons. Across the void, I noted the subtle tremor in every observation channel, the ripple of awareness that stretched from council chambers to distant star systems. Humans were no longer insignificant. They were architects of their own extraordinary fate, a force whose name would be remembered, debated, and revered in the annals of galactic history. And as I recorded the final sequences of this monumental encounter, I understood something profound. The galaxy had changed forever, not by conquest or force, but by the unyielding courage of a single species. Earth's children had awakened a truth every being in the cosmos would now carry. The smallest flame of defiance, can illuminate the darkness of entire worlds. Silence reigned, but it was not emptiness. It was respect, reverence, and the quiet acknowledgement of something that no technology, no council, and no fleet could ever extinguish: the enduring, unbreakable heart of humanity. The galaxy would never forget.